The player to commentator format for the Blitz-a-thon was amazing. And it was such a masterstroke that Legend Story Studios pulled off, and the team there did a great job. And I wanted to talk more about it and why I think it should extend into the future and into other events because it was so brilliant and well executed. I'm Bronson, and if you missed the Blitz-a-thon, no worries. You can always go to the Legend Story Studios YouTube channel, and they have it there. It's 8.5 hours long and it's awesome. So, what they did during this event, if you missed it, is they took the players that had played the game that you saw in front of you. When they lost, they would go into the commentator booth. Basically, they were corralled like, hey, dude, go there. Talk to the streamers. So you had, Matt Rogers, Chris Gehring, and James White, and all those other guys who lost to other people and they had win streaks and then they would finally lose and then they'd go into the booth and talk about what happened. And I wanted to tell you a story and really kind of drive this home of why I think this was so important. So, back in the day, I was watching a StarCraft tournament, and you had these two commentators, right? And they were talking about player A or player red player and blue player, right? And they were saying, "Oh, the red player's doing really good. Red player's on fire. They're doing great strategies. They're around the board and they're dominating." And they were like, "Oh, blue player really messed up here, and the blue player should have done this way, and I don't know why the blue player is taking all his troops and putting them in transports and shoving them onto this random island in the back of the map. I don't understand this." And the blue player is doing this missteps of all these things, and this went on for like 20, maybe I think 30 minutes, and then of where they were saying how bad the blue player was playing and playing it out, and how great the red player was. And what was hilarious is at the 30-minute mark, the red player surrenders and the commentators are speechless. They're like, what? Like why did he surrender? What strategy was this? What happened?" And it turned out that the blue player was doing some like next level crazy strategy that was out into the community in StarCraft where you put all your units on like some random island in that map and you were able to build up a bunch of anti-air and just drag the game on for a long ass time, and you're able to build up stuff and then finally win the game. But the commentators didn't know this, and I'll give them credit. Like at the end of the day, they were probably not getting paid for that. They were probably just doing this because they love StarCraft. That's cool. And honestly, hey, I make mistakes too. Bronson is not infallible and the master of anything. I make a lot of mistakes, and that's fine. But the point of that whole story is that the reason why I love current players of the game coming out of the game and talking in the booth is because they understand the game the best. They understand the meta games, the strategies, and what they did and what they didn't do, and what other people are doing and what they're not doing. And that was really cool to hear. And hearing like Matt Rogers come into the booth and Nick Holding come into the booth, and literally after the game that they played, they would say, "Oh, well, at this point in time, I should have made this move instead of this. I misplayed this, and next time I should have built a deck around this." And I think one time one of the players said, "Well, at first I thought they were playing an aggro deck, but I realized midway that they were playing a control deck, so I had to switch my strategy and whatnot." And it was just great because not only are you hearing commentating about the game, but you're hearing it from the horse's mouth. You're hearing it from the people who just played the game. But not only that, when you heard like Matt Rogers or any of the other people like James White, Chris Gehring talk about what was happening with other players in their games, the way that they explained it was just so eloquent, and you knew that they weren't fluffing anything up or making anything up, pulling anything out of their ass. They knew exactly what was happening in those games, and they'd see that the player drew up their hand, and they'd know right off the bat like this. They'd say, "Oh wow, this guy's in a tough pickle. Like I don't know, this is a bad hand." Or they'd be like, "Oh, a good hand, a good play is gonna be made. Like this guy is gonna totally unleash on the other player." So at the end of the day, I think that format is hard to pull off because it's easy to just put two people in the booth commentating about what's happening, And that's like the general thing that all these big games do. But honestly, I think it's time to change. And Legend Story Studios, I think I don't know why the reason for doing that was. I don't know if it was a lack of personnel or maybe I don't know what the reason for doing that was. Or maybe other games do have this and Bronson's slow on the times. Maybe this is something that's new. But I loved this. And I think this should happen going forward because you really get to understand what was happening in the game. And the people who play the game, when they go to the booth, they know exactly what's happening. And I'm not going to say I know exactly what they're saying 100% of the time. A lot of times, you know, the players are saying stuff that I don't really understand, and I try my best. But I'll tell you what, I learned a ton while watching the Blitz-a-thon stream, and just hearing it from the players themselves was really cool. So again, just love that format, and I hope the player going to commentator format for these types of events, I really hope that that continues on in the future. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.